It's Thursday, July 17th. This is CTV at 6. Here's what's making news tonight. Nova Scotia's premier tells Halifax Council to pivot on a one-way street, or he will. A landlord thought she rented to 4 tenants. There were 12, and a lot of problems.
The risk of thunderstorms shifts towards Nova Scotia and PEI by Friday morning.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Todd Battis.
Good evening. It's unlikely a downtown Halifax street will become a one-way corridor. Premier Tim Houston has made it clear if City Council doesn't reverse its decision, he will. As CTV's Vanessa Wright reports, that has intensified a split at City Hall.
In an open letter, Premier Tim Houston says his government will be forced to act if Council does not reverse its plan to turn Morris Street into a one-way to accommodate bike lanes.
This is at risk of public safety. This is a route to the hospitals. Health professionals have spoken out saying, please don't do this. It's a risk to the port traffic, which is a huge economic engine for the entire province, not just for Halifax.
Houston says he now sees this as a provincial issue, slamming Council's inability to make common sense decisions on the matter.
My concern, I guess, is that the only people who don't realize that traffic is an issue is members of the Halifax Council.
But Deputy Mayor Tony Mancini called the Premier's comments shocking. He claims all parties knew about the decision and that they even smoothed out any concerns.
Our staff were working on design for Morris Street that it involved all emergency services, police, fire, and EAHS were all part of the conversation, and including the port. They're all part of the conversation. They had concerns about various designs. They went back and forth, and then they said, here, okay, thumbs up from everyone. What's happened? What's changed?
Still, Mancini says the disconnect between governments is a bad look.
My preference is to work with the Premier, not fight with them. I'm also concerned that our business community and our residents are now looking at us and have less confidence in both orders of government because they see this conflict that's going on.
The Premier has given Halifax Council until August 6 to reconsider the plan, and if they don't act, he will. We reached out to Mayor Filmer's office for an interview, but only received a statement. In it, he says he's not surprised by the Premier's comments and reiterates his support to reverse the plan. Todd.
CTV's Vanessa Wright live on the street in question, Morris Street in downtown Halifax. Now, as you saw in Vanessa's report, Premier Tim Houston joined us today. He will be our guest just after 6:30. And for more on this issue, you can visit our website, ctvnewsatlantic.ca. A section of the busy highway between Moncton and Shediac was shut down today. Motorists had to endure heavy backups and delays this afternoon due to a collision. Route 15 westbound closed between the Ohio Road and Chesley Street exits. The RCMP confirmed the closure just after the noon hour. It remains shut off now. A Hazmat team from Moncton was sent to a gas station on the New Brunswick-Nova Scotia border. This afternoon, firefighters responded to a hazardous materials spill from a transport truck at the Irving Big Stop in Olac. 14 members of the Moncton Fire Department's Hazmat team joined firefighters from Sackville and Amherst. It's not known what the spill was and whether there were any injuries. Firefighters were still on the scene at the gas bar late this afternoon. There's a live look right now at Fredericton. It's currently 26 degrees. There is severe weather in the region. Let's go to CTV meteorologist Kaylin Mitchell, who has been tracking it. Kaylin?
Yeah, thunderstorm activity into the northwest of New Brunswick. We've had heat and humidity that's built up throughout this week. Now we've got a weather front that's making its way in out of Quebec, and that's triggering this rounds of thunderstorms moving through. There is the potential for more thunderstorms for areas of the north and west New Brunswick as we move through this evening, maybe even all the way up to around midnight. Taking a look at things on radar right now, you can see most of the action is right up around the northwestern corner, parts of Madawaska and western parts of Restigouche County. And taking a closer look at these thunderstorms along with the lightning, which you can see there's plenty of. There's some intense downpours, and that's showing up through the brighter colors here on radar, the yellows and the oranges and the reds. Certainly downpours expected. With the downpours, a risk of some instances of flash flooding. A lot of lightning along that band over the last 15 minutes, 193 lightning strikes detected as it does extend all the way back through parts of Maine. And while it's the northwest New Brunswick that's currently into the thunderstorms first, you can see the southern part of this line as well. That is making its way towards the east. So those will be the thunderstorms that could come in later this evening for areas like Woodstock and up towards Perth, Andover. So Environment Canada earlier today issued a severe thunderstorm watch that remains in effect around that northwestern area of that province. Remember, the situation with thunderstorms can change quite quickly, so you want to be weather aware this evening and tonight, and have a way to check in on the latest watches and warnings issued by the weather agency. As we take a look at the risk of those thunderstorms, one of the higher risks with it, those downpours, as I already mentioned, because of the high level of moisture in the air, which we were still feeling today when it came to the heat and humidity away from coastal areas. Even at this hour, a lot of temperatures are around the high 20s and some near 30 degrees with Humidex, Todd, feeling well into the 30s.
All right, we'll get an update from you in the full forecast in about 17 minutes. Thank you, Kaylin. To Prince Edward Island now, where a landlord thought she was renting to 3 university students and their mother. Instead, a dozen tenants and even more animals moved in. It took months to evict them, and as CTV's Maria Saru tells us, they left a putrid and pricey mess.
2 cats.
Kittens left behind after being bred in the bathroom, but that's not all coming out of the woodwork.
I'm in shock. I'm devastated. Seeing it being destroyed, not being able to do anything about it, it's very gutting.
Tamara DeVries is still discovering new damage after her former tenants were evicted Monday.
The kitchen is incredibly filthy. You can take a look at the fridge, the freezer. All the appliances are missing, cabinets are broken.
She thought there were 4. Instead, DeVries says 12 people, and at one point, 14 animals lived here. If it wasn't for the crown molding, this living room might be hard to recognize. The dining chairs are in pieces. One back door is missing. In total, there's about $80,000 in damages DeVries says she's on the hook for.
And outside, things aren't much better. That's a hill of horse manure you see behind me, and it smells like it. DeVries says her former tenants dumped truckloads across the property, including the well, the main water source.
It took 5 months to evict the family. Hearings with the PEI Regulatory and Appeals Commission, known as IRAC, were postponed. Tenants appealed, and the process dragged out.
I don't feel any protection. Not only that, but there is no consequences for the damages caused.
In a statement to CTV, IRAC said the timeline associated with the appeal process is dependent upon a number of factors, including complexity of the file. DeVries says for her, the damage is done. She's urging the province to make changes so others don't go through the same. Maria Saru, CTV News, New Glasgow, Prince Edward Island.
As the world collectively circles August 1st on calendars for Donald Trump's new tariffs, New Brunswick's premier says the latest threats must be taken seriously. Here's CTV's Nick Moore.
It seems like when I'm in this room, we're talking about tariffs and President Trump, and here we are again.
The dog days of summer are being interrupted by the bark of Donald Trump's new trade war threat. A letter from Trump declaring a 35% tariff on Canada come August 1st.
Our team continues to take this extremely seriously, as much as history has proven that these kinds of letters and suggestions from Trump are fleeting and are prone to change.
New Brunswick Premier Susan Holt says her government is staying the course on getting industries ready for what might come.
Whether that's to help them make sure that they're CUSMA compliant for any goods or services that are crossing the border, whether that's to help them adjust to increased costs that they're experiencing because of some of the tariffs that have been put in place already on steel and aluminum.
The tariffs on steel and aluminum have left a mark on parts of the maritime manufacturing industry.
With the prices up and down and, impending tariffs coming, it's very hard to cost out jobs, for example. Some companies have determined that they're not even going to bid on certain jobs because of the uncertainty or the fact that they have to write in price increases into various contracts.
Ron Marcolin is a divisional VP of Canadian manufacturers and exporters and says all businesses crave one thing: predictability.
They need to know what's coming at them, and in the case of the tariffs or potential tariffs, we just don't know.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says a trade deal with the U.S. is still possible and could include a quota on exports of Canadian softwood lumber.
We want to see softwood lumber on the table in these trade talks. The tariffs that are currently in place on softwood lumber are damaging to New Brunswick, and the forecast that those tariffs are going to increase significantly has put a real chilling effect on a critical industry for our province.
Nick Moore, CTV News, Fredericton.
It looks like the long-shutter Donkin mine in Cape Breton may be for sale. An email sent to CTV News by Maureen Resources, which holds a stake in the Donkin mine, says owner and operator Cameron Cole intends to sell it. The Donkin mine has been closed since a roof fall 2 years ago. Nova Scotia's Department of Labour gave it the okay to reopen that winter, but the mine stayed closed. Maureen Resources said it will provide further information of the sale process when it becomes available. When we talk about crops this time of year, it's typically not Christmas trees. The holidays are months away, but right now growers are worried about a threat to their trees. CTV's Jonathan McGuinness has more.
Fungus, commonly known as root rot, is taking aim at some of Nova Scotia's Christmas tree lots.
Last spring we started seeing some rot, and so I got the specialist in to have a look at it, and we sent some off to get tested and confirmed that it was root rot.
So far it seems like only Fraser fir trees are affected, not the more common balsam firs like you see around me. It's believed root rot came in on young trees brought into the province.
So far I've got balsams growing right alongside a dying Fraser, and our balsams are doing very well.
A bit of a silver lining. Still, based on consumer demand, Colin Hughes brought in about 15,000 Fraser firs. Local producers can't meet the demand for trees, so some saplings need to be imported.
And that seems to be where the problem are, in isolated areas.
Root rot is just that, a fungus that attacks the root of a tree, preventing it from absorbing water and nutrients, eventually killing it.
We've never had to deal with it in our more northern climates, largely because we always had frosts that would go down to 6 to 8 inches deep, and that would freeze out the spore stage of the disease.
Warmer winters are providing the right conditions for the fungus to spread.
Because this particular disease has a swimming spore stage, so it depends on wet soils to actually swim to the roots. And it only attacks roots when they're actively growing in the spring or fall.
As for Colin Hughes, all he can do is hope his tree loss is minimal and his balsams continue to stand strong against root rot. And Todd, interestingly, root rot has not been found in natural stands of trees, just those brought in from out of province. Testing is going to be done to find out why. Todd.
All right, John McGuinness in New Russell, Nova Scotia. A new report claims small businesses in Atlantic Canada are paying 2 to 3 times more in property taxes than residential property owners. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business is calling on local and provincial governments to reduce commercial property tax rates for small businesses in our region, insisting they aren't being fairly taxed. Commercial property tax rates are typically more than double the residential rates, meaning small businesses are paying thousands of dollars more in taxes.
And to keep up with these increased costs, around 6 in 10 of our members have had to increase their prices as a result of property tax increases. So it doesn't just impact the small businesses, but it also impacts the consumers as well.
A spokesperson for New Brunswick's government says it's committed to overhauling the property tax system with a predictable, fair, and affordable system within 2 years.
Get the Maritime's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Now to a spectacular and rare sighting in our maritime waters. The largest species of whale in the world, the blue whale, was caught on camera by a tour group in Cape Breton. CTV's Ryan McDonald has the up-close encounter.
Most of the time, it might not exactly be newsworthy for a whale-watching tour to spot a whale, but this was a special kind of marine mammal.
We started seeing them at 9:30 yesterday morning.
This whale-watching tour guide in Ingonish was able to give his customers a special treat throughout the day as a blue whale that had made its way into the waters off Ingonish Harbour stuck around until supper time.
Oh, everyone was amazed. A lot of people said I made their day or made their week. They were very happy, and there was a lot of cheering and clapping for sure.
Yes, it absolutely is. That is one of the most amazing animals you'll ever get to see on the planet.
The head of the Marine Animal Response Society, or MARS, says it's not that unheard of for the biggest species of whale in the world to make its way into maritime waters. But to see an encounter that was that up close and personal is fairly rare.
I mean, we do get blue whales that will come to Eastern Canadian waters in the summer, especially to feed and whatnot. But to have it that close to shore and in that location off Cape Breton is a pretty rare and special treat.
Back in Ingonish, the tour captain says the blue whale hasn't been spotted today, and he figures it may have moved along. But this isn't the only time they've seen something pretty spectacular. 7 years ago, nearly to the day, a pod of beluga whales made quite a sensation when they made an extended visit to the waters off the Cabot Trail.
They spent about 2 or 3 weeks in the channel there behind me between the two buoys, and people were able to go out and check them out every day with their boats.
For now, he and his lucky passengers are still talking about a whale of a tale and an up-close encounter they were lucky enough to catch on tape. Ryan McDonald, CTV News, Ingonish, Nova Scotia.
That is a good souvenir. All right, time for a break. Still to come, a risk of thunderstorms in New Brunswick this evening. Kaylin returns with the full forecast. But next, from pulp to power.
With this announcement today, the use of wood products in those buildings is a big option for those.
Nova Scotia looks for new ways to use what would have been pulp wood. We'll take a look after this. Just days after Northern Pulp declared it was leaving Nova Scotia for good, the province has announced it will use more wood to build and heat public buildings. CTV's Jesse Thomas has the details.
Against the steady hum of saws and heavy equipment piling and stacking logs, the province announced a new policy direction to prioritize the use of wood in new construction and renovation of public buildings and as a heat source.
So there's a list of projects that are on the go all the time. And with this announcement today, the use of wood products in those buildings is a big option for those.
It's a move the forestry sector has been waiting for, especially given the collapse of the market for low-grade wood products since the Northern Pulp paper mill shut down in 2020. The company made it official this week they're leaving Nova Scotia for good.
This will allow woodlot owners and contractors to plan. They know this is coming, so we know that now the sawmills have security. They don't have to worry about the U.S. as much because now they'll have markets locally.
There are already 20 public buildings, including schools and hospitals, who have converted to wood heat. The province wants to expand that and the use of timber in construction, creating local markets so industry won't have to rely on U.S. exports as much.
With the trade issues that are going on south of our border and many of our products going south, this is an initiative that we can look at how can we use our products that were being built in Nova Scotia by Nova Scotians.
The province says today's announcement is about supporting the Nova Scotia forestry sector and building greener buildings and heating them with wood products that the industry is desperate to sell off and find a market for. Jesse Thomas, CTV News, Enfield, Nova Scotia.
Thank you, Jesse. Still to come in your newscast tonight, showers for parts of the region on Friday morning. Kaylin has the details. We'll take a look at the full forecast and see what's going to be raining down on us after this. Weather now. Kaylin joins me at the desk. It was warm today. It didn't quite have that intense heat
as yesterday, right?
As yesterday,
yeah. So there was a little bit of a change today. The wind picked up a little bit. It was still out of the southwest, but the fact that it was a little bit stronger, especially around coastal areas, which of course here in Halifax we are, held a little bit of that cloud cover closer to the coast, kept the air stirred up a little bit more cooler air coming in off the ocean waters and kept it down. Now, that was just for the coastal areas.
Yes.
Other parts of the region today, still very hot, humid, and of course we have those thunderstorms.
I was going to say northern New Brunswick has to contend with the sort of the result results of what happens with all that heat.
Which we'll take a look at in just a moment. Let's take a quick check-in on weather conditions across the country. We've got some very mild temperatures out west right now. A lot of low 20s showing up at this hour through many parts of BC and into areas of Alberta, except cooler in Calgary, which is seeing rain at this hour, 15 degrees there. 23 at Saskatoon and Winnipeg off towards the east. The heat and humidity has broken parts of Ontario and Quebec because of that front coming through. That's the same front that's approaching us right now and is the front that's triggering some of these thunderstorms and is the same front that will be breaking our humidity as we move from Friday into Saturday. But right now, all the thunderstorm activity is up around the northwest of New Brunswick, and along with lightning, there's some downpours, and that could lead to some instances, at least localized, of some flash flooding. Possible rainfall rates that could approach 30 millimeters in an hour in those downpours. Now, most of the action's been up around parts of Madawaska and western Restigouche County so far, but the southern portion of this line is still making its way eastward, and it's these thunderstorms that are currently in Maine that could still move into areas like Woodstock and Centerville as we continue to move through this evening and tonight. In fact, much of the north and west of New Brunswick will continue to have a risk of thunderstorms moving through the night, even up to around midnight. Now, during the overnight, that front moves a little bit more into the maritime region, and that's going to be bringing a chance of showers and thunderstorms Friday morning to both Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia. Now, those showers and thunderstorms are going to be scattered by nature, so it's about a 40 to 60% chance for any given community of seeing one of them through Friday morning, and then heading into Friday afternoon, that weather is mostly expected to clear out and the humidity lowering in behind it as the wind direction changes. For tonight, the wind's still out of the southwest, and they'll still have some gusts between 30 and 50 kilometers per hour. Not much let up of the actual wind speeds as we move through tonight, but then tomorrow, you can see the change in the wind direction across the Maritimes over to a northwest wind that'll be blustery, gusts of 30 to 50 kilometers per hour, but bring in less humid air out of the north and across the Maritime region. Humidity breaks first in New Brunswick, should be broken by the start of the day for tomorrow, and then we'll be falling for PEI in Nova Scotia Friday afternoon, evening, and night. Tonight, though, still some very warm and muggy conditions across much of the Maritimes. Highs in the forecast for tomorrow in the north of New Brunswick between 22 and 25 degrees. And down through central and southern areas, New Brunswick, most highs between 23 and 26. Prince Edward Island for tomorrow with high temperatures of 23 to 26 degrees. Highest chance of a shower, risk of a thunderstorm in the morning, as it will be for many areas of Nova Scotia, though I would say a chance of a shower does hold on to at least the early afternoon for Cape Breton, where highs will be mostly 22 to 26 degrees. Lots of low to mid-20s for eastern parts of Nova Scotia, northern and central parts of the province, mid-20s in the forecast for tomorrow. Again, it's in the morning that you have your chance of a shower, chance of a thunderstorm. And in the southwest of Nova Scotia, the chance of a shower or thunderstorm is mostly during the overnight hours or pre-dawn hours. And then during the day, it'll be clearing to a mix of sun and cloud and high temperatures 22 to 26. In the 7-day outlook for New Brunswick, Saturday, a very pleasant looking day right now. Still plenty warm, lower humidity. Chance of showers on Sunday. Temperatures slightly cooler to start off next week, but rise Tuesday, Wednesday time frame before there'll be a chance of showers on Thursday. For Nova Scotia in the forecast, mostly sunny on Saturday, warmer, lower humidity. Chance of showers on Sunday. And then after that, Monday highs in the low 20s, but rising towards the mid-20s Tuesday, Wednesday, and for Thursday of next week. And for Prince Edward Island, the forecast start of the weekend on Saturday, sunshine, highs near 25, lower humidity, chance of showers on Sunday, mix of sun and cloud, highs near 20 Monday and Tuesday, but rising towards the mid-20s for Wednesday and Thursday, Todd.
And Kaylin noticed on the map the water temperatures really starting to...
Oh, they came up big time over the last couple of weeks, especially Gulf of St. Lawrence, Northumberland Strait.
Maybe that's why we saw that blue whale up off Cape Breton.
Maybe.
We'll see. Okay, we'll check in with you later for the wake-up weather. Next, Premier Tim Houston talks politics, power, trade, energy, and Katie is back on the scene.
I'm Bria Isabelle. My new EP is out now. It's called Things I Never Told You, and you're going to hear a little bit more about it coming right up.
Make sure you join us tomorrow morning for another chance to win a trip for two to London, England with Virgin Hotel and Virgin Atlantic.
And we have our ice cream social where you could win free ice cream for a year.
Welcome back. We're joined by Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston. There's much to talk about, from municipal powers to tariffs, energy projects, and we welcome him in studio. Nice to see you.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Last night you released an open letter to Halifax Council urging them to reverse a decision to make a street in downtown Halifax one way, to add a bike lane. There are lots of ways you could approach city councillors. Why did you choose an open letter format?
We've been trying to get through to them, but I mean, look, traffic is an issue in Halifax and lots of places for sure. I mean, everyone who lives here and anyone who visits the city knows that traffic is an issue. So I think the only, my concern, I guess, is that the only people who don't realize that traffic is an issue is members of the Halifax Council, and they're making these decisions, the Moore Street decision to turn a really important street into a one-way street so they can make room for more bicycle lanes. This is at risk of public safety. This is a route to the hospitals. Health professionals have spoken out saying, please don't do this. It's a risk to the port traffic, which is a huge economic engine for the entire province, not just for Halifax. So when I see these types of decisions, I want to make sure that they absolutely understand where the province stands on this. I actually see this as a provincial issue, so we want them to really have a common sense approach to this.
It's a decision made by municipal council for a municipality. Shouldn't that stand?
It's a decision made that impacts Nova Scotians, and particularly, I mean, when you think about that, the importance of that street for access to healthcare. You know, EMC, who runs the ambulance system in the province, said that they did over 20,000 calls that required them to use that street. So when you make it a one-way street, you put some of that at risk as well. So that's a public safety part that we can't just look away from. And the port issue is really significant too. We need to grow our economy. We need to be supporting economic growth initiatives, and this is one that steps back. So I think, you know, their agenda of more bike lanes is, you know, okay, I get where they're coming from, but they need to be conscious of the bigger issue and the bigger impacts that some of these decisions have. So it's important that I, as Premier, I'm responsible to Nova Scotians, that I speak up on those things.
Do you see any other issues in the Halifax municipality that you could see your government getting directly involved in?
Well, I mean, obviously, when you think about the provincial issues, I mean, we have a great province. There's lots good happening in the province, lots good happening in the city. But of course, we have challenges still in housing. You know, so when we talk to the municipality, we've been trying to work with them on housing, more residential housing, more housing opportunities, more affordable housing. So these are things we're focused on. Obviously, healthcare is big too. So, but that's under our purview. But the things we work on together, I mean, just the movement of people, the movement of goods, you know, the housing stock needs. These are really important issues to all Nova Scotians, and this is, you know, this is the biggest city in our province. It's important to everyone.
So that leads into the question of strong mayor powers. There's been a lot of debate about this. Where does that stand with your government? Do you see your government bringing that in? And if so, does that affect beyond Halifax municipality? Would that then sort of cover every municipality in the province?
It's a discussion. We're looking at it for sure, and I think when you kind of step back and you think that the mayor of a municipality, that's the only person that everyone votes on. In a certain district, you can vote for your councillor and also your mayor, but across all the districts, people vote on the mayor. So they expect that the mayor has a plan, has an agenda, has a platform that they put forward, and that they can execute on it. And I think what we're seeing in Halifax right now, I mean, it's obviously there's a lot of issues with the mayor executing on the platform that the people expect. Traffic is one. Traffic is just like the most glaring example where council time after time is just you know, just going in the opposite way that the mayor is trying to. And I think that the citizens want. So there's a disconnect there. So we're looking at strong mayor for sure.
Mayor Phil Moore said he needs strong mayor powers to get big things done. The previous council got big things done. Cogswell Exchange guided the city through the pandemic. Is this merely a case of a mayor and a council that don't get along, and should they not figure that out on their own? Isn't that politics?
I think it's politics, but for me, it's I'm trying to to look above that and just say, do the people who have responsibility for making decisions have the tools that they need? So, you know, a couple of things gave me pause for thought. You know, one of the, I saw, you know, the mayor had put forward a motion that was resounded that just asked for council to pause and look at the costings of things. And a comment that I read from one of the councillors really gave me pause for thought. The councillor said, I actually agreed with the motion, but we wanted to send a message to the mayor. Well, we need to be able to rise above that and put people first. This is about people. Politics is about people, and we can't let agendas and, you know, personal conflict have a negative impact on people. So we're looking at all these things. We're having discussions, but I think just having people having the tools to do their job, whether that's the mayor, whether that's the premier and the government, whether it's, you know, somebody working a job wherever in the province, you need to be able to, if you have responsibility and are accountable for decisions, then you should have the tools to do it. So it's a discussion.
Okay, let's move on to tariffs. Nova Scotia was given an A in a recent report for cutting interprovincial trade barriers. A lot of other provinces didn't score nearly as well. It's great that Nova Scotia is doing that. But if other provinces aren't playing along, you're standing by yourself. Is that frustrating? Do you see any more deals being signed, like the one with Ontario, and where does that stand?
Yeah, I think there's actually good momentum. I didn't see the scorecard. A is nice. I didn't get too many A's in my life, so it's good if Nova Scotia got one on this. But I actually feel good momentum. So, you know, what we're looking for is positive movement going forward. So we're there on. It's one country, free trade. That's, you know, we should be able to trade freely. So in Ontario, we're there. At PEI, we're there. You know, Manitoba, we're there. BC, we're there. There's a whole bunch of others that we're close. So the premiers will meet next week, and I think the premiers all look. We all have our own concerns in our own jurisdictions, but I think there's incredible progress, and I'm very optimistic about what's happening there.
On the issue of big projects that you've been touting, we reported yesterday that Northern Pulp has decided to leave the province, pull out, selling off its assets. The request for interest in uranium exploration didn't go anywhere. Are you concerned that industry doesn't see Nova Scotia as a viable province, that it's deemed too risky? It's not.
No, I think, look, we have to overcome some history for sure, because, you know, for 20 years we've said no to everything, and I think, you know, we have to get past that. We have incredible opportunities in the mining space. We have incredible opportunities in the forest space. The wind, the offshore wind is incredibly excited about what's possible in offshore wind. So are others. So it's a process. You know, the Northern Pulp decision. You know, I would like to see a pulp mill in this province, and there are others. You know, so we're not totally giving up.
Have others expressed interest?
There's lots of, you know, we call them tire kickers or whatever, but we have a strong forestry sector. We have lots of opportunity to have a strong forestry sector. So we're still, you know, the whole natural resources thing, but we need to develop some of these projects. We just can't stay where we're at.
Okay, so you mentioned wind energy in particular. And I know that you've mentioned in the past that you'd like to see a cable either overseas or to the west of Canada delivering electricity generated by wind. When could we see those turbines in the water offshore?
A couple of years, but so it's a step process. So I think, you know, we're having discussions with the federal government about, you know, some alignment and some support on getting a cable, so we can produce energy offshore. But you can't produce it if you can't sell it, or there's not a need for it. So in Nova Scotia, we use about 2 gigawatts a year. We could produce 40 offshore. So, but you can't produce 40 when you only need 2. Like, nobody will do that. So we need to have a market for it. So we're having, I would say, a positive discussions with the federal government. I believe the Prime Minister is also on the same page of big projects. So a cable to get it to the market. Then once you can show people there's a path to, you know, to sell the energy that you produce, then you can have serious discussions about the production of it. So we want to put some bids out, hopefully this year, on the offshore. But I think when we look out 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, this is something that will change our economy in a very, very positive way for generations. So I think it's something we have to pursue.
Lastly, let me ask you this. The federal government decided to walk back the digital tax, which the White House called them out on, in the hopes that perhaps this would help spur on a deal. Canada gets a letter that's saying expect 35% tariffs. Was that a misstep to remove that digital tax, because it clearly didn't seem to have any impact on getting Canada a better deal? And how do you feel about negotiations? Do you think there will be a deal by August 1st?
I have great confidence in the Prime Minister and the team there. I would say that from the outset. I think they have the best shot of getting a deal, but they're dealing with somebody that's difficult to deal with. It changes their mind a lot, and is actually instituting policies that are punitive to Canada and others, but are also illegal. So we have to understand it takes two to tango. So he's in a difficult situation. There's no question, but I have great confidence in his abilities and some of the steps that he's taken to unwind, like the carbon tax, like the digital. I think these were good things that are necessary. So, you know, my dad used to say there's nothing so bad that something good doesn't come of it. And, you know, the actions of the president are forcing us to look inside our country at what is possible. And in the fullness of time, I think that will have shown to be a good thing. But we still want a relationship with the Americans, and we'll get there.
All right. Premier, thank you for coming in today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
That's the Premier of Nova Scotia, Tim Houston. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
The opinions expressed in this segment are solely those of the commentator. They do not purport to reflect the opinions or views of this station, CTV News, Bell Media, or its employees.
Tonight in Murphy's Logic, Steve offers his take on the debate over those strong mayor powers.
Speculation's been running rampant in political circles that the Premier of Nova Scotia plans to give the Mayor of Halifax a lot more power. At the moment, the mayor is little more than a member of council elected at large who chairs the meetings. His authority is the power of persuasion, spoken from behind what U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt once described as the bully pulpit. He's in a position to be heard, if not heeded. And so it is with the new mayor of Halifax, who's already proposed ideas that have been rejected by his fractious council. I've long believed that municipal governments should have more power. Municipalities deliver most of the services that affect our lives every day: police and fire protection, garbage collection and recycling, streets and sidewalks, snow clearing, water and sewage, recreation and parks. But curiously, this level of government has the least amount of real authority. Its power is derived from the provincial legislature. In addition to giving the mayor more executive authority to lead the government, more members of council should be elected at large to better reflect the interests of the entire municipality, not just a district. But changes of this magnitude should be proposed to the voters before, not immediately after, provincial and municipal elections. Tim Houston didn't campaign on a promise to give the mayor more power. Andy Fillmore didn't ask for it during elections that were held less than a year ago, although it seems possible they were thinking about it. In a democracy, the citizens, not a powerful premier or ambitious mayor, should decide whether to restructure self-governance in such a fundamental way. I'm Steve Murphy.
We're on the scene now. Cape Breton musician Bria Isabelle has spent years behind the scenes writing for other artists, but as Katie Kelly shows us, with the release of her debut EP, she's sharing the songs she saved for herself.
Get lonely, find me a way to get through. Looking out for you.
Bria Isabelle is stepping back into the spotlight with her very first solo EP.
The collection of songs, a lot co-written with some of my favorite collaborators that I've been lucky to find over the past few years.
Isabelle is a familiar name in East Coast music. She first turned heads as a member of the critically acclaimed Cape Breton trio Port Cities. And along the way, released a few solo standouts of her own.
I wanted to be girlfriends, but we were just girlfriends, yeah.
But in recent years,
I've been mostly working kind of behind the scenes, writing and producing for other artists.
Her work has even found its way to Hollywood, with songs landing in hit shows like Grey's Anatomy. But through it all, Bria was quietly holding on to a few songs she knew she had to sing herself.
whether that's like a personal kind of story that wouldn't make sense to come from anyone else, or more of a character song, but just something that I feel really connected to and really proud of.
Her new project, Things I Never Told You, is a 6-song collection.
Someone described it as like bedroom pop, which I think is fun.
The EP features some big names, like Donovan Woods, who co-wrote and duets with her on the track Leaving Is Easy.
Initially, I was singing the whole thing, but as I was working on the EP, I was like, I think this would really work as a duet. So Donovan was a sweetie and threw his vocals down. As soon as I heard it, I was like, yeah, it's meant to be a duet.
After years of lending her pen and production to other people's projects, Bria says working on this EP reminded her why she loves making music for herself, too.
As much as I like working behind the scenes, it was really fun to go back and stretch those creative muscles that are totally mine and kind of just not really have to think about anyone else in the process.
If fans could take away one thing from this new album, what do you hope that would be?
I always hope with every song I write that people can just find a little piece of themselves in my songs, and find their own experience reflected back at themselves, whether it's, exactly their story or not. That's always what I aim for people to see themselves a little bit in my songs.
Looking out for you.
All right, thank you, Katie. Business and our wake-up weather is after this. Stocks rose to record highs in Canada and the U.S., with the Dow closing up 229 points today as investors piled into Canadian banks and fears eased that the American economy is struggling. Andrew Bell has details.
Hello there. Canadian bank shares climbed to a new record today, and that was enough to lift the Toronto Composite Index to a new record high close north of 27,300. The Canadian bank shares as a group offer a dividend yield of almost 4%, and that's more attractive to many investors than the one-year guaranteed deposit rate of only about 3.5% offered by many institutions. The S&P 500 hit its own record, just shy of 6,300. Retail sales came in stronger than expected, and a drop in jobless claims pointed to economic strength. One market watcher told Bloomberg, quote, "The consumer came back to life in June." The Canadian dollar was under pressure. It changed hands at 72.74 cents US, down 1/3 cent. West Texas Intermediate crude changed hands at $66.23, up $1.04. Our latest fix on Western Canadian Select Oil has it at $53.96, down 18 cents. And the TSX Composite ended at its new record high of 27,386.93, up just over 233 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
All right, Kaylin is in the Weather Center because you were watching those thunderstorms moving into the region.
Yeah, when I last updated you, I mentioned that there were some further thunderstorms back in the state of Maine that were still making their way eastward, so approaching western areas, New Brunswick. They're now starting to get closer and closer now to communities such as and around the Perth-Andover area, and over the next hour or two, potentially even Woodstock. Lots of lightning still with those thunderstorms. Over 160 lightning strikes picked up over the last 15 minutes, and still some heavy downpours. And Environment Canada has now put severe thunderstorm warnings back in effect for Edmundston, Madawaska County, as well as Grand Falls and Victoria County, as that next line of thunderstorms approaches as we make our way through this evening. Remember, because of the heat and humidity that has built up throughout this week, these thunderstorms could be ongoing a little bit later into the nighttime than would be typical for them, with the risk maybe even continuing all the way up until around midnight. All right, let's take a look at our viewer picture for tonight. This is a beautiful scene. It's coming in from Grand Manan, New Brunswick, from Roger Lewis. I want to thank Roger very much for that. Grand Manan actually set a daily high temperature record yesterday, and tomorrow looking quite warm. Mix of sun and cloud, high temperature near 26. Day planner for tomorrow, starting off the day, chance of a shower, risk of a thunderstorm in the morning for both Prince Edward Island, areas of Nova Scotia. They are going to be scattered in their coverage, though. Moving into and through the afternoon, that chance of a shower, thunderstorm, it moves away. Should see some clearing, humidity falling Friday and Saturday, Todd.
Caitlin, I want to take a moment here just to remind folks that you do an update through the day on the web if they want to see that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So you can check out updates in the forecast throughout the day at ctvnewsatlantic.ca. And that is going to do it for us tonight. We'll run it again on CTV2 in a moment. Bruce Frisco is here with the late update at 11:30. And again, ctvnewsatlantic.ca. You can find the forecast there as well as updated reporting. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope to see you right back here at 6 o'clock for the Friday edition of your local news. Till then, have a good night.
CTV News, the Maritime's #1 newscast.